I come here today to tell you a tale of joy, spread throughout many ages, a tale that then leads to sorrow. This tale starts in the year 1985. It's a tale of a magical device that in that year brought much happiness, much excitement for what the future may hold. That device was the NES. Upon its release, everybody rejoiced. People thought these kind of devices would never come again, because for you see, years before, these sort of devices fell out of fashion. They crashed. They were destroyed. But this company, the company of the Red Plumber, revived this ancient art, this arcane art. And there was much happiness and rejoicing. And as the rejoicements continued, the craze continued, there came another magic more powerful than before. This magical device, simply super in technique and power. It came, and there was even more rejoicing and happiness, excitement about what could possibly happen with this device. And so it was used and played with, and much joy for boys, girls, men, women of all ages and all types. And thus years passed, and another era happened. Once again, this Nintendo 64 came along and made it so that everything looked even better than before. 64 bits of power. People could hardly understand that video games could just keep looking better and better with each eon and epoch. And thus, the gaming continued. It grew and it grew. People became more excited about what would be next. What could possibly be better than this? And so once again years passed. And then there came a cube of fun and excitement. One that people could barely understand. People shouted, "Wow. I thought the last one looked the best it could," and then the GameCube came along. And people's excitement grew. People rejoiced and were happy. And then time passed. And then it happened. A magical spark was born. As the company of the Red Plumber introduced the Wii. And there was much rejoicing. A whole world celebrated. And then, years passed once again. People once again thought, how could it get better than this? How could it get better than this? What could possibly be next? This seems to be the pinnacle, the peak. What will happen in the future? And then years passed. Many years passed. And then the Wii U. The Wii U was born. Now, many people were confused and did not buy this device because they thought it was merely an attachment for the device they had just got. So sadly, this device came and went because people misunderstood it. There were still a few dedicated souls that got one, but not as many as before, because people simply did not understand. They thought this whole console was just merely an accessory for the item that they already had. So this device sadly came and went, and then people moved on. But the company of the Red Plumber did not give up. And thus, the Nintendo Switch came along. And there was once again a rejuvenation, an excitement, a burst of energy. Like never before, people were even more invigorated to play this new console, a combination of two things in one. A combination of the handhelds they had enjoyed up until this point, and the consoles that they dearly wanted. And then there was much rejoicing once again. There was much rejoicing. Little did people know that this era would be the best. And so, with much rejoicing, with much pleasure, there came a time where people asked one thing: where could it go from here? What could possibly happen from this moment on? And so, the company of the Red Plumber told the people that there shall come a time when there will be many rejoicings. Don't worry, for the thing you just loved will have another, a second. There shall, for the first time ever, be a two. And so many people celebrated, anticipating the reveal of what this two could mean. For there hasn't been one before. There has never been a two. And so with anticipation, everybody waited. The faithful had become numerous. And as people waited for that fated day, for this mythical two to be revealed, the hour came, and the people looked up at the company of the Red Plumber and asked, will this mythological two be priced reasonably like it had been before? And then the first bell rang, and the company of the Red Plumber said no. People looked on in nervous trepidation and said, okay, well, will the items we use in the device, the games we play, be similarly reasonable price like always? And then the second bell rang, and the company of the Red Plumber said no. And then the people, with much more fear in their eyes and confusion, looked up at the company of the Red Plumber, and in confusion, bated breath, they said, well, will you at least allow us to have our games be on the cartridges like always? And then the company of the Red Plumber, holding now a scythe of rebuke in their hand, said no. And so, with even more fear, more trepidation, the people looked afraid, unsure of what they were witnessing. And they asked one smaller thing. They asked, oh dear company of the Red Plumber, we are filled with fear and confusion, but can you at least confirm that honor will be paid in homage to a brand new full-length adventure of the Red Plumber, so that we may at least continue his journey on this new device that we now have some concerns about. Will you at least show us new adventures so that we may continue paying homage and faithfulness to the Red Plumber? And then one final bell rung. The company of the Red Plumber swung the scythe down. Its faithful was cut down. And then the company of the Red Plumber walked away, put the device in front of what was left, and said, "You will like what we give you, or you get nothing at all." And thus, ladies and gentlemen, that is the tale of the company of the Red Plumber. Pay heed to this story, and always remember, never step on those that got you where you are. Goodbye.